Hey, welcome back to another video of American Garage TV. And today, we're going to go back in the day. Anyways, I'm going to reposition the camera here. This is something from my younger days. And I used to live in California. And up there in Azusa Canyon was a great playground for any four-wheel drive lover. Jeeps, vans, or well, pickups, Jeeps, whatever, anything four-wheel drive. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let me reposition the camera here. Okay, get that down. All right, let's see if I can get that. All righty. All right, I've already did a video on this before, but stupid me, right over here, I didn't realize that my wife was editing one of the videos. She caught the fact that all our, what do you call it, passwords were duh. All right, let's see if I can hold that. All right, so this is when it all started. Okay, this is from this goes back 1970 of April. And back at that time, it was a 62 Willys CJ5, okay? And you can see right over here, that's the transfer case. That's the original four-banger. Kind of like what they had back in the 40s and 50s. And anywho, and my old man used to be a top mechanic for Chevrolet, and right there, geez, right there is a 71 crate block from a Corvette. He was a top mechanic for Chevrolet, Leo Hoffman Chevrolet in La Puente, California. So that's where it all started. And after he stuck the V8 in there, he got together with all his military brothers, buddies. Let's see, I am about 8, 9 here. Yeah, this is still roughly a month or so. I think this is in June of that same year, 1970. So I was still 8. And there's a couple of his buddies in the back there. That is actually a German 22 Ruger that he bought back in the 50s. Actually, he bought that directly from Germany when he was stationed out there. So I still own that gun. It's pretty cool. And then there's the old man with one of his buddies. Total military, gunnery sergeant, pro boxer. You can see he's built like Mike Tyson, just as vicious. And that was a semi-automatic Colt. That was his military edition with the brass bullets, which we used to have. Actually, this is still April of 70. So when that must have been the beginning of April, he had done that. Now, later years, this is back, this has got to be 74, 75. There he is winching through all this snow in Big Bear. This is 1971, so actually it's like a following year. I wish I had the pictures. I don't know where they are from back in 70 prior. I want to say he bought this around 68 or so. Again, this was a 62 Willys CJ5. So there it is with the red paint job. And there he is with all his buddies at the desert, all lined up, and they all try to copy one another. Of course, my dad had to be the daredevil with the the V8 350. I'll get into that in just a moment. I, of course, couldn't leave it stock. And that was, believe it or not, you could see the windshield there. That is the original windshield. And he was a mechanic for Chevrolet, then started working on diesel engines, and then moved to, somebody got him into sales. And somebody he knew had some leftover paint, and he had, I don't know if you could see it, there is a little bit of a red outer pinstriping around that metallic blue and that, I don't know, piss yellow. And he got that pretty much for free, and had one of his painters, he had a refuge company where we manufactured the steel bins and boxes, and he got that paint for free. So he figured, what the hell, I'm going to repaint the Jeep, and it was hideous. And then there it is after years later. And that's a buddy of mine. Dude, if you're watching, oh my God, I had a brain fart. But he had moved on. This is right at the end of our high school, which was 79. And he had moved. That's the gentleman right there with the big old curly dreadlocked hair. He went to the Navy, so they ended up cutting it all off. And there I am right there sporting my Disco Sucks t-shirt, you know, giving a fist bump there. All right, so back up. Here is, after he got into sales, he handed me the Jeep. I stripped it all the way down, as you could see here, pulled the motor in trans, and I just started revamping. So this was where it all started for me. And there I am sporting that 70s hairdo. And that's the Jeep. I just got those wheels and tires. Much nicer looking than the Steelies that my father had got. That is a 4-speed M22, I believe. The M21, the Rock Crusher. No, that was the M20. It was 22, then 21, and 20, I guess. Anyways, it's been so many years. I actually converted that to the Rock Crusher. It was the gearing. And that was a 4-speed Munzie. And that was one of the very first advanced adapters kit for the small block, or from the transfer case, which was originally a Dana 18, then converted to a 20, which was much stronger. And that was back in the day. And that was the adapter to adapt your transfer case, your original transfer case, to the Chevy transmission. And from that aluminum bell housing, that's all Corvette and Camaro. And there's another shot. There's another one. Back in the garage. Boy, it pissed him off. And then, of course, I really didn't own any tools, so I had to get creative. And a lot of muscle. Of course, I was young. I could go for miles. And by hand, I stripped all that. Here is, that's the old Ramsey winch. You can see my transmission in the middle, and off to the left there, that is my transfer case. The only thing missing from this picture is the PTO. And I still have the PTO. And that's the power takeoff, because this was a cable drive. This wasn't electric at the time. They didn't have that. That actually hooked up to the back of the transfer case, and that's also why I went with the Dana 20. You know, with that motor, you really want a rear output for the rear shaft instead of offset, because that put a lot of stress against the case, because that would hang down, and that would stress it, break it, crack it, and like I said, break it up, and then you were done. But it was the PTO, or you had a rear output for the shaft. And there's the motor there. I still own that scoop. And that is a Torker 2 intake manifold. The crank, now here's the thing, when my father moved up, here's another picture in the garage. My father moved up into sales. He stopped getting interested in this stuff. He went from blue collar to white collar, and then started smoking cigars and drinking his cognac with all his other rich friends. But me, I was still a boy. I was that child inside. I was so excited about what my father had created and put in my lap. So I kept the torch going. Obviously, to this day, I never quit. Here's where I had to put it all together. You could see there the windshield's changed over. That's a later model. That's a 75, 76. I also changed the headlight bezels. Those are also later model. That front bumper, I made that. I even made the shackles. Here's another picture of that. I don't know if you can see these well enough. I'm looking through the back of the camera. Here's another shot outside. Another one coming out the garage. I got the chrome covers, the Rancho shocks. Those were Wrangler tires. I don't remember. I think it was American Racing for the wheels. That was the back. It was a Willie. So I came up with the idea of, instead of oh Willie, really, like oh really, oh Willie. So that's where that came from. And then this is it painted. And I got some pictures that are going to come up right after it left the garage. This is when they had lead in shaker cans, so it was a spray bomb. Now, when he moved up, we moved to Bellhurst Buena Park. And that was an upscale community of Buena Park. And then right outside the home tracks and over the railroad was none other than Clay Smith Engineering. And I tore this motor apart, sent the motor and the heads to him, actually the cam. We actually got rid of. He had poured and polished the heads. This is long before. This is 1982, I want to say. They're not marked. So there's that nice pressive scoop. They didn't have ceramic coating. They didn't have aluminum heads. They didn't have EFI. They didn't have roller cams. They didn't have MSD like you see it today. These are the heads. George Striegel, Clay Smith Engineering. His machinist, the gentleman that did the actual work, his name was Miles. And I think they're still kind of around today. And there's the porting and polishing. That cam was a solid cam, custom ground by George and his staff, Miles. And it was a 304 duration. Boy, was that a nice little loping cam. I mean, we're talking back in the day, I was probably about 4 1/4, 450 with giving that technology off of a stock 350. And I was 18 to 22 years old, the biggest lead foot you can imagine. And there's that spray bomb paint job right after it came out of the garage. Boy, was she looking gorgeous. Look at that. Fire engine red or whatever it was called. Cherry bomb red. Beautiful. Out there's that 75, 76 windshield. Those are the later model aftermarket chrome. They're actually polished stainless on the windshield hinges. And then this is when we started having fun. This is Azusa Canyon. See there, I'm doing a little burnout over here. There's me trucking across the desert. There's me trucking across the water there. You had everything, whitewater wash, boulders, dirt. Not too far was like the salt flats in such a way. That wasn't up in Azusa, that was up Northern California, where all the speed records were broke, and all the other, like Boyd Coddington went out there, and they used to run some of the vehicles because I guess not everybody went to Pomona. That was the old race strip. And they also had OCIR. Look at me right there. Just catching air. Not a worry in the world. Back when I was a kid, I'm telling you, you saw Evel Knievel or Carroll Shelby, and as a kid, unlike the kids today, I mean, I'm sorry guys, you guys are sissies compared to what we were. I mean, look at that. We're just dead daredevils. I mean, we just thought to ourselves, oh, hell yeah, we can do that. And we did. And so, Nick, if you're watching, that 77K10, this is what makes your vehicle so dear to me. And we're going to go out cruising. And I'm sorry, pal. You're going to be the one behind the, keeping the passenger side warm. Anyways, I just wanted to share that with you back in the day. Thanks again for watching another episode of American Garage TV. I'm your host, Jim. We're here at Jim's Speed Shop. Be sure to like, subscribe, tell a friend, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks again for watching.